Hello, ladies. Hello. We are here on another Monday. How was your weekend? I know that you can't personally tell me, but I am hoping that you had a great weekend. I had a great one. And I always look forward to Mondays because I know that I get a chance to tell you ladies something else in reference to your health. Well, you know what I'm about to tell you. You know that you are beautiful to me. And why are you beautiful to me? Because you're a woman. Simple. You are beautiful because being a woman is not easy. As we know, we have to hold it down for our families. We have to hold down for our jobs. We have to hold it down for so many things, right? And we're able to do it in spite of the fact that it does stress us out a lot of times, but we're able to do it. And we do it in such a way that we're still beautiful. So I don't care what size you are. I don't care how you look. I just know that you're beautiful to me. And if no one has told you that today, I want you to remember that I told you that today. And I find you to be extremely special. So thank you for joining me today. So you are listening to the Estrogen Chronicles. I'm your host, functional nutritionist Gail Thorpe, at your service. And today we're going to have a great topic that has covered many areas for women that we all know a lot about. So this is, as I mentioned, Estrogen Chronicles, her plate, her power, because we take back our plate for power, right? That's what we do. So you make sure and you grab your tea and your coffee, your water, or maybe if you want a little glass of wine, that's fine too. And get your pen and paper, and we're going to go ahead and get into it. Okay, ladies. So today our topic is a topic that we all have experienced. And I'm going to be just honest that in some form or fashion. And here at the Estrogen Chronicles, we talk about things that maybe others may not talk about. And I want to be just real with you because that's what it's about. That's what I'm about. Okay. So we're going to talk about today vaginal odor and the connection too with your stomach with that, right? Now, the thing is this. When I say that we all have experienced in some way, that doesn't mean a bad thing, because sometimes it can happen. Sometimes some things are a little off on us a little bit. And I kind of covered that a few episodes ago when I talked about the pH factor, and that is for your V-spot, right? So you can catch that episode on the Estrogen Chronicles podcast website. So, or YouTube, or any of the major platforms. I'm actually on all of the major platforms. But what exactly is vaginal odor, though? Now, the vaginal odor, of course, is a natural scent that all vaginas have, slightly musky or a little tangy due to, natural secretions and bacteria. However, a strong, fishy, yeasty, or foul smell can be a sign that something is off with the vagina environment, or the V-spot, I like to say. Okay? And we're going to be talking about that part. Not so much about the naturalness of how it smells, but more so the unnaturalness. Okay? Now, changes in odor usually results from an imbalance in the vaginal microbiome. And it can also be other health factors, such as having bacterial vaginosis. We just talked about that like 2 episodes ago. And that's like the most common cause, which is linked to an overgrowth of certain bacteria. Also, yeast infections, which is often produces a yeasty or red-like smell with discharge. And then we have our STIs. So whether it be gonorrhea or chlamydia, that can also cause an unpleasant odor along with other symptoms. And then there is poor hygiene or even sweat that's trapped moisture and bacteria has increased, which causes odor. We also can have hormonal changes. So menstruation, pregnancy, menopause can also shift your vaginal pH. Okay? And diet and gut health. So your digestive system and your vaginal microbiome are connected. Okay? So any kind of gut imbalances, like too much sugar or processed food, can affect the vaginal bacteria or even worsen the odor. Okay? Now, I hope you understand that, because we talk a lot about sugars and all kind of stuff here. And as we know, that most of the time, those things are just not good for us. Now, the connection between the gut microbiome, okay, and the vaginal microbiome, like I'm basically saying, they're pretty much connected. So with the gut microbiome, this can actually reduce beneficial lactobacillus, which normally keeps the vagina very acid and healthy. Okay? Now, too much sugar actually feeds on the yeast, which cause a possible yeast overgrowth and odor. Okay? I'm going to repeat that again. So too much sugar feeds on the yeast, which causes a possible yeast overgrowth and odor. So poor digestion or food intolerances. So inflammation affects your vaginal balance, and supporting gut health often improves vaginal health. Okay? So again, poor digestion or food intolerances increases inflammation, which affects vaginal balance. Supporting gut health is best to improve also your vaginal health. So you see the connection? Okay. So some of the symptoms concerning vaginal odor. So things that you want to pay attention to, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. So any type of fishy, metallic, or rotten smell. So changes in discharge, like the colors gray or green, yellow, clumpy, or white. If you have itching, burning, or irritation. Pain during urination or intimacies. And pelvic in your abdomen pain, which can be a sign and be more serious if it's going to be hurting you down there. Now, I always mention when it's time to see your doctor. Why do I do that? Because that's keeping you informed. Because a lot of times we just sit around and deal with things, and we just like, okay, I'll just try this, I'll try that. But sometimes we really do have to see our healthcare professional, because something else could be happening, could be going on. Like I say, a lot of times symptoms overlap other symptoms, which actually equals to more things happening, more something serious happening. So we want to make sure we get that checked out. So now, if the odor is new, it's very strong, or it's persistent, and you also notice unusual discharge, okay? If there's itching and burning or pain, I just talked about that pelvic and abdomen pain. And if the symptoms don't improve with basic hygiene or diet changes. So if you notice that, okay, I'm cutting back on sugar, I'm cutting back on processed foods, and I'm, becoming definitely more hygienic. We should always be hygienic, but sometimes we may skip a shower or two. Hey guys, I'm real. I think you realize that. And so this is what happens. So we want to make sure we're doing those things, but in case we're doing all of that and there's still no improvement, right? So we need to definitely take a look at seeing our healthcare provider. So when we go to the doctor, we're going to get a pelvic exam, with usually a visual and a physical one. And he will swab or do a culture test to check for bacteria. He's going to check, or she will check for yeast or any type of STIs. And then they will do a pH test. Okay. So a healthy vaginal pH is between 3.8 to 4.5. Anything outside of that would be considered, the actual pH balance is off. Okay? So there's actually a test for that. And then they're going to test also the urine to see if there's any urinary tract infections, because sometimes that also can be suspected, and that could be something that can also throw you off too, right? Because like I was telling you before, that your vagina or V-spot is not too far off from your bladder. So that's why a lot of times we will have continuous UTIs or urinary tract infections, because also our microbiome in our vagina is off, right? So in order for us to keep all of that in balance, we have to make sure the stomach is in balance. We have to make sure our vagina is in balance. So that will help to prevent any type of UTIs, because some people get that pretty often. Now, if that odor is coming from having bacterial vaginosis, which is, we talked about that, as I mentioned, BV, there will be antibiotics that's going to be given. So it will be oral and vaginal. Okay. If there is yeast infection, that will be an antifungal cream or an oral medication. And if there's any type of STIs, they will definitely give a prescription for antimicrobials. Okay? And of course, preventative care the doctor will talk about to you will be probiotics, changing your diet, and improving your hygiene. Now, I know that sounds so personal, and it is, but there are women that aren't the best in their hygiene when it comes down to that area. So when that happens, coupled with a bad diet, you definitely may experience some type of V-spot odor, right? That you just cannot get rid of. So it just kind of grace the fact of probiotics, but we talked about that before. Probiotics, especially strains in lactobacillus. Okay? That is important, guys. I cannot stress enough. There are probiotics for your vagina. Okay? Did you know that? A lot of people think about probiotics and they think only for their stomach. No, we do have probiotics for your vagina, and that is to keep your bacteria, because you're going to have good bacteria and you're going to have bad bacteria, just like in your gut. And we do not want an overgrowth of bad bacteria in our V-spot, because now there's going to be an imbalance, which is going to cause problems like infections. It's going to cause problems like odor that we're talking about. So if you are experiencing any of those things, okay, and funny discharges like I just mentioned a few moments ago, you want to take a look at getting a vaginal probiotic. Like you want to run and get it. And if you're not sure about which one to get or how does that work, I'm going to tell you about that later, because I can help you with that. Okay. So we also want to take a look at vitamin C. Now that helps to support our immune function and vaginal acidity. Vitamin C. Okay. We want to also look at zinc, which supports tissue healing, right? Because there's tissues down there, right? So we want to support that, and zinc will help to do that. Then we want to look at garlic supplements, which is antimicrobial. It has that type of properties in something as simple as garlic, right? So we want to cook with garlic. And if we can't stand garlic as far as cooking with, I know myself, I love garlic on my food. But if you don't like that, you can always take a garlic supplement, because they're out there as well. And then we want to do a cranberry extract. So this will help to prevent urinary tract infections. That's going to give us a urinary tract support when we do that. Okay, how do we take back our plate, ladies? Because again, no matter what we're talking about, we're always going to have nutritional values to take back our plate so that we can improve on whatever that problem is. Okay? Remember, her plate, her power. What you put on your plate is going to give you power for your health. So we're going to start with things like yogurt or kefir or sauerkraut or kimchi. Why? Because they are probiotics. Okay? Did you know that? Yes, they are. Well, I'm quite sure you should have known about definitely the yogurt because you can buy yogurt with live cultures in it. Right? Okay? And leafy greens, asparagus, onions, and garlic. Now, these are prebiotics. And what they do actually is feed good bacteria. Okay, I'm going to repeat that again. So leafy greens, asparagus, onions, and garlic, they're considered prebiotics, and prebiotics actually feed the good bacteria. So normally you want to take the prebiotic first and then take your probiotic. And then berries and citrus, which has the vitamin C. They're very much vitamin C rich. Okay? And then pumpkin seeds, nuts, and seafood. This has the zinc that we need that I just talked about, and it has the magnesium. Okay? And then we want to do whole grains, legumes, and the fiber for the gut health. Remember, I'm saying there is the connection. It's so important. Remember, if our gut is off, we're not taking any type of probiotics or prebiotics, we're having a lot of gut issues, 9 times out of 10, we have probably an overgrowth of bad bacteria in our gut. Now, there are testings that you can do to see if you have that type of thing going on, where you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria, right? But if you don't get the test, you might just know it from yourself. You might just know it from the constant, maybe diarrhea or constipation. You're feeling nauseous when you eat different foods. You could just tell your gut is off. You want to definitely take care of your gut because your gut is your second brain. That's what we say in the medical community, right? But your gut has a direct correlation to your vaginal microbiome. So what you're putting into your gut will determine how your vagina is going to respond, right? So remember that. First, we want to definitely take care of our gut health, and then we want to take care of our vaginal microbiome, and then we want to make sure and take care of our urinary tract, because 9 times out of 10, if you start experiencing a lot of situations with your vaginal microbiome where you have overgrowth, it starts to spill into our bladder, and now we start to have a UTI. Okay? It goes pretty much in that order. All right. You see how foods definitely play a role in everything. Now, those are supplements. Now, what are the foods that can actually encourage having a vaginal odor? When you actually excess sugars and refined carbs actually feed yeast. These are the foods that I'm about to tell you that encourage vaginal odor. And then processed foods. It actually disrupts our gut balance. Once again, our gut plays a role, right? So we don't want it to disrupt it, because if it's going to disrupt that balance, your microbiome, which is your stomach, dysbiosis, right? If that happens, now we're going to be having problems with the vaginal microbiome. So processed foods can disrupt the gut balance. Excessive red meat. that's linked to stronger body odors. Did you know that one? Now, I always try to provide you ladies with good information that you may not get anywhere else, or maybe not even your doctor to tell you. But believe it or not, excessive red meat is linked to stronger body odors, period. So if it's stronger body odors all over, you know it's going to be definitely down there. Alcohol. We always talking about alcohol. Alcohol in me is not that I hate it. It's nothing wrong with a glass of wine sometime. But too much alcohol definitely affects our hormonal health in a lot of ways. And a lot of the different conditions that I've talked about these last couple of episodes had a lot to do with it. So alcohol actually disrupts our gut and liver detox. Okay? So we don't want that. We talked a lot about liver detox because what happens now with your liver, which is your body's natural filtration system, but your liver actually can have excess estrogen in there. Okay? And if it's too much, sometimes it can be impaired from detoxing it. So then you have to do what we call three level of liver detoxification to help to get that out. But then now we don't want to have excess estrogen, right? We want the liver to naturally be able to detox it, because now we're talking about hormonal issues. Pretty bad when we have too much of that. So when we have too much alcohol, when we're drinking too much alcohol, and I say too much, I don't mean occasional drinking, too much alcohol. That's what it does. It disrupts our gut and it prevents liver detoxification, because the liver will naturally detoxify itself, but certain foods and things can actually impair it, and we don't want that. Artificial sweeteners can actually affect your gut microbiome. I'm not a component. I hate artificial sweeteners. I definitely tell my clients to stay away from that. It's not good. But it will disrupt your gut microbiome. Okay? All right now. So what you want to do, when you're listening to this, that's why I always tell you to have your pen and paper with you, because it's important. I'm going to give you always things and tips so that you can prevent from either having these things, or if you have it, you know what to do to hopefully get rid of it. Make sure you create your checklist. Write down the foods that you eat and foods that you need to avoid. And you want to definitely write down the supplements that we're talking about, okay? Because that way, that will keep you a step ahead. And if you have to go to the doctor and talk to him or her, at least you'll be able to say, well, I had this, I had that, this is going on, that's going on. That's important, because that helps them to be able to help you. Okay. Alrighty, ladies. So I hope that you can see great information. Now we have come to that moment. Do we know what that moment is? We know that moment is when I give you a gift. Okay? And again, there's nothing that I talk about that I will never leave you ladies with some type of something, so that you can get started right away and getting yourself healthy. Okay, so I'm going to give you a delicious juice that is functional for supporting your vaginal health. It's going to help to reduce odor by balancing your microbiome, which is supporting your gut health, and while maintaining the right pH. This is what this juice is going to do. Okay. So we want to do 1 cup of pineapple. Now, of course, pineapple is naturally sweet. I love pineapple. Who out there loves as much as me? I don't know. I think I beat you. So 1 cup pineapple, which contains bromelain, and that's good for digestion and freshness. We're going to do a half cup of cranberries, and that's, make sure it's nice and fresh. We're going to do unsweetened, and that's going to help with the urinary and vaginal health. And then we're going to do 1 small beet. That's going to help to support our liver detoxification, and it's going to improve circulation. Okay. All right. We're going to do 1 medium cucumber. That's going to be hydrating. It's going to be cooling, and it also helps to reduce inflammation. We're going to do 1 stalk of celery. That is very alkalizing, and it helps to flush toxins. And then we're going to also add a half lemon, which is peeled. It's going to give us that vitamin C that we just talked about. It's going to support immunity and also a healthy pH. And we'll do a small piece of ginger, which is antimicrobial, and it helps to support your digestion. If you want, you can add a handful of parsley or mint to give it extra freshness to that vaginal odor that you may have. Okay? You're going to wash everything. Now, you know I'm going to tell you to go for the organic stuff. Okay? To prevent all of those pesticides and all of the bad stuff that they pour into our produce or our vegetables. We don't want that, right? Because that's just an added situation. So we're going to go for organic. But even with organic, we still want to make sure we wash everything. And then we're going to run all the ingredients through our juicer. Okay? Or we can blend it with a half cup of water if you like. And then you'll have to strain it if you choose to do that route. And we want to what? We want to drink it immediately. Because that's when it's going to give you the maximum freshness and the nutrients. Okay? I say that all the time. Now, this could maybe make about 1 or 2 cups for you, but this may last a second time, but you want to make sure that you don't want to keep it in the refrigerator too long. But you want to make sure if you have some left over, you want to put it into a glass container. Make sure it's nice and tight to keep the freshness. And I would drink it the next day. I wouldn't wait like 3 days later to drink it. But if you can drink it the same day, that's the best. So basically, this works again because the cranberries and lemon actually discourage harmful bacteria. The pineapple and the mint actually promotes a naturally pleasant scent. And the beet and cucumber actually support detox and hydration, which is very key for vaginal tissue health. And ginger and parsley. Now that's naturally antimicrobial and is also deodorizing. Okay? Now what you want to do with this drink, you want to drink this 3 to 4 times a week. You want to pair it with a low sugar, high probiotic diet for best results. And again, that's if you are experiencing a lot of vaginal odor. But you can also do this even if you're not, for prevention. Okay? Because sometimes people want to know, well, what do I do? When do I drink that? That's how you want to drink that. Okay? And I have a smoothie for you. Today, I'm generous. I'm being generous. So this is going to be what we call our berry probiotic. And why do we need that? Class in session. Why do we need it? We need it because that's going to help to balance out our vaginal microbiome. Okay? And it's going to prevent so much of the buildup of bad bacteria. So with this, we're going to do 1 cup of unsweetened kefir, or you can even use Greek yogurt if you like, which has the probiotics in it. We're going to do 1 cup of mixed berries. It can be blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries. And we'll do the 1 tablespoon of chia seeds, which gives us a fiber and omega-3s. And we're going to do 1 teaspoon of raw honey. That's kind of optional. And then a half cup of water, or we can even do almond milk. Okay? And that will help with the probiotic. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Now, again, we want to make sure, even with that smoothie, we want to drink that preferably in the morning on an empty stomach for maximum absorption. Okay? That is important. If we do have the smoothie in the afternoon, we can use it as a snack or a light meal if we like. You want to make sure to avoid adding any kind of refined sugar. Keep it everything naturally sweet. And please make sure to stay hydrated. At least 2 to 3 liters of water daily, because that's going to help with this problem of the vaginal odor. Okay? All right, ladies. Can you believe I got one more thing to give you today? I actually do. So, now we know that the vagina is self-cleansing, right? Inside it maintains its own delicate pH balance, which is a beneficial bacteria, mainly lactobacillus, and that naturally prevents odor. We want to make sure washing on the inside, if we do wash on the inside with homemade solutions like vinegar, baking soda, or soaps, they can actually disrupt. If we're going to do that, if we're going to do the wash on the inside and use those things, that can also disrupt that balance and create the odor. Okay? The best thing to do, and I know you might have heard this before, is not really so much to clean on the inside as it is to clean on the external area of your vagina. Okay? So external cleansing gives a more natural and gentle way of cleaning, but it's also the safest. Okay? Right? But some people do when they clean inside. If you're going to clean inside, you don't want to use the stuff that I just mentioned, vinegar, baking soda, or soaps, because that can also disrupt the balance. If you're going to do something on the inside, it has to be as natural as possible where it will not destroy it. But we prefer if you do the cleansing on the external, outside. Okay? So I have a natural wash for you to prevent vaginal odor. This is a do-it-yourself feminine wash. Okay? And it's for the vulva, not inside the vagina, like I mentioned to you. So you want to do 1 cup of distilled or boiled cooled water. We want to cool it. We don't want to keep it hot. And we want to do 1 teaspoon of aloe vera gel, which is soothing, pH friendly, and is antibacterial. And we want to do 1 to 2 drops of lavender essential oil, or we can even do chamomile tea, right? Which is a natural antimicrobial, and it's very calming. Okay, so we want to go ahead and mix well. Use a soft washcloth or your hand to cleanse the outer area, only the vulva, not inside. And then we want to go ahead and rinse with lukewarm water. Now this works because aloe vera actually moisturizes and gently supports skin barrier without disrupting the pH. Lavender or chamomile it actually helps to reduce irritation, is naturally deodorizing, and is antimicrobial. Okay? And the distilled water actually avoids the chlorine, the bacteria, or mineral buildup from tap water. Now think about that, because, unless you have a water softener when you take your shower or your bath, some people have hard water buildup. And when you have that, I know in my home, we don't have that softener, that's what happens. So when we're going and we're washing, sometimes just with that alone can disrupt our pH balance, because it does have the chlorine, it has bacteria and mineral buildup. That's what causes that hard water to have those mineral deposits that you may see on your faucet. And that you're putting on your vaginal area. So you can imagine what that can do, right? When you think about it, some people haven't thought about that, but when you think about it, that's a thought. So using distilled water helps to avoid that from all of that buildup. Okay? All right, ladies. I think that we covered a lot today about vaginal odor. We talked about the connection between our having vaginal odor and also our gut microbiome and how important it is to keep both of them lined up correctly so that we don't have what we call vaginal odor and an imbalance of our vagina. And if we keep those two things working in a smooth alignment, now we don't have to worry about having so many UTIs. Right? Because the bladder starts to pick up some of that bacteria and here comes the UTI. It just makes sense. We talked about the foods that we need to incorporate to take back our plate in this situation. And we also talked about the foods that we should not incorporate. We talked about supplements that we can take. And again, guys, one of the most important ones is having the vaginal probiotic. It is out there. Okay? It is out there. And we need to take it. That is so important for us, ladies. And we talked about going to the doctor. We always like to talk about that because I want you to be informed on how they're going to, diagnose the problem that you may have. What are some of the things that they're going to do? Right? So when you go, you're like, hey, I already know what's going on. I know what's about to happen. I want to keep you informed. Okay? And I gave you some smoothies, and I gave you a juice, and I gave you a natural cleanser. A lot of great stuff. Right? But these are things that we experience as women. Sometimes, and again, it does not mean that you're dirty. Let me just say that because I don't want anyone to think that. But just eating certain foods a lot, like we talked about, sugar and alcohol and, processed foods, right? We talked about that. So just having a very poor diet, okay, and not taking a probiotic to help balance out your vaginal pH balance can cause that odor, right? So don't feel bad about it. It happens to us all at some point. But there's ways that we can fix it by the things that I just mentioned. Okay? Now, a few moments ago, I talked about how to get the vaginal microbiome probiotic. Well, you want to definitely go to someone like myself that can give you a really good one that you can't see too much in the stores because we have to care about the quality, okay? In any supplement we take, we have to care about the quality of the supplement, okay? The raw materials that's being used in the supplement. How long is it, been on the shelf with the supplement? All of these things play a big role. So because I am a functional nutritionist, I actually represent over 200 different what they call practitioner supplements. And these are supplements that are almost like taking medicine, but they're supplements, right? And you can't get them in the streets. You can't get them in your local CVS. So I have the goods. I have the goods. But even if you don't see someone like myself, or rather someone like me, you're not seeing me, you want to look for a functional nutritionist like myself that can also offer that to you. Okay? So you want to make sure you have really good stuff to use when it comes down to your vagina. I think you want it to stay pretty healthy, right? For many reasons. To bear children, for the health of it, and for the smell of it. I'm not trying to be funny. So that's important. Okay. And if you are unsure about the foods that you have to eat and talk more about the other supplements that you can take to help with you in this condition. Again, someone like myself, you want to reach out to. And if you want to work with me, I would love to have you aboard. You want to go to my website, www.nutritionudesign.com. And you want to book a 30-minute session with me. It's actually free. Okay? And we can discuss all of these different things, and then we'll take it from there on what else is needed. Okay? And you want to make sure, ladies, to share this podcast. I believe I try my best to give you good information and information that affects us ladies particularly, right? Because we are just different from men. So we have to be able to have something that we can listen to, some things that we can talk about that might be a little uncomfortable, but how we can also resolve it at the same time. Okay? So you want to share this information with your other lady friends, whether it be family or friends, right? And you also want to make sure that you like this podcast and share the podcast. Okay? And that helps me. That helps me to be here to continually provide you great information. The more that you help me, I help you. And as you know, I always end it as wellness is not just a focus, it is a lifestyle, because it is a lifestyle. Everything that I ever talk about to you is things that you can do every day. This is what we call lifestyle nutrition. It's not a diet. Please don't think it's a diet. I'm not promoting diet, right? Because diets don't work. I'm promoting lifestyle changes for you, okay, to help you to feel better, to look better, feel better, in especially areas that isn't often not discussed, okay? So it is a lifestyle. Just remember that. Okay, ladies, I think I've covered it all. Pretty much, I believe so. So with that being said, what I am hoping that you have a fantastic rest of your week. I want you to relax. Don't stress yourself out. Make sure and stay hydrated. And always remember that your health is your wealth. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you soon.